Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old as gold, but these rare Lincoln penny coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1, because what if I told you that a humble looking 1-cent coin, a 1964 Lincoln penny, could actually be worth a small fortune? Yes, we're talking about a single penny that might be sitting unnoticed in a jar, an old drawer, or a family coin collection, and it could be hiding an incredible story and an even more incredible price tag. In today's video, we're diving deep into the mysterious and highly collectible world of the 1964 Lincoln 1-cent coin. We're going to explore why this coin has become so famous, what makes it different from other pennies, and how much it's actually worth today if you happen to have the right one. Let's get into it. The Lincoln penny has been an iconic part of American currency since 1909, when it was first introduced to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was actually the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and who better than Honest Abe? Now, over the years, the Lincoln penny has gone through some changes in design and composition, but the version minted in 1964 might just be one of the most intriguing of them all. Why? Because during this period, something was happening behind the scenes at the US Mint that would lead to a coin that collectors today are willing to pay enormous sums for. In the early 1960s, the United States Mint was dealing with a coin shortage. There were rumors of people hoarding coins, especially silver ones, as their metal content became more valuable than the face value. To meet the rising demand for change, the Mint produced billions of coins, including the 1964 Lincoln cents. But here's where things get interesting. While 1964 Lincoln pennies were made in massive numbers, over 6 billion, in fact, certain rare variations of this coin are what have caught the eyes of collectors. It's not just about the date on the coin, it's about what lies beneath the surface. Tiny differences. Minting errors. Unusual characteristics that only show up under close examination. These small details can turn an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Let's talk about the design first. On the front, or obverse, we have the classic image of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor D. Brenner. You've seen it countless times. The date 1964 is stamped on the right side, just beneath the phrase, "In God We Trust." On the left is the word Liberty. Flip the coin over, and you get the Lincoln Memorial design, which was added in 1959 to replace the original wheat ears. The reverse side includes the words United States of America, e pluribus unum, and, of course, 1 cent. Now, all of that may seem pretty standard, right? But here's where things heat up. Collectors have discovered that some of the 1964 Lincoln pennies have rare and unusual features. Some have double dies, where the coin was struck more than once in the minting process, causing certain letters or numbers, like Liberty or the date, to appear doubled. These are known as 1964 double die pennies, and they are extremely sought after. Others might have planchet errors, meaning the coin was struck on the wrong metal disc, or other unique imperfections that occurred during production. These aren't just minor factory flaws, they are numismatic gold. And then there's the condition factor. If you have a 1964 Lincoln penny that has been kept in near perfect condition, what collectors call mint state or uncirculated, then its value skyrockets. Why? Because almost every 1964 penny has been touched, circulated, or worn down over time. But a flawless one is like finding a needle in a haystack. So how do you know if your 1964 Lincoln penny is worth something? First, check the condition. If it still shines like the day it was made, with no scratches or blemishes, that's a great start. Next, look for mint marks. 1964 pennies were made at both the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. A small D below the date means it came from Denver. While both can be valuable, it's usually the Philadelphia coins, with no mint mark, that have turned up with more unusual features. If you see any doubling in the date or the word Liberty, that could be a sign of a double die error. And finally, if you're not sure, it's always worth getting the coin professionally appraised or graded by a trusted service like PCGS or NGC. That's how many collectors have uncovered treasures hiding in plain sight. You might be asking, but come on, how much could a penny really be worth? Well, hold on to your seats, because one particular 1964 Lincoln penny, with extremely rare characteristics and in pristine condition, was once appraised at $115,000. Yes, you heard that right. A coin with a face value of just 1 cent, worth $115,000 to the right collector. It's the ultimate reminder that value isn't just about what something looks like on the surface. It's about history, rarity, And that perfect mix of mystery and magic that collectors live for. So next time you come across a pile of old pennies, don't just brush them aside. Take a closer look. That old change jar could be holding something truly extraordinary. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into rare coins and hidden treasures. Let us know in the comments if you've ever found an old coin that turned out to be valuable, or if you're going to start checking your pennies from now on. Top 2, we're unlocking the mystery behind a coin that millions of people handled without ever realizing how valuable it could become. A simple, copper-colored Lincoln penny from the year 1960. It's a coin most of us have seen. You might even have one in your pocket right now. But here's the twist: a specific type of the 1960 Lincoln penny is now considered one of the most valuable 1-cent coins ever minted in the United States. We're going to dive into what makes this coin so rare, the surprising history behind it, and how you might just have one of these treasures hiding in plain sight. This story isn't just about money, it's about overlooked history, minting mistakes, and how 1 cent could turn into a life-changing discovery. Let's dig in. The Lincoln penny has been around since 1909, when it was created to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. It's one of the most recognized coins in the world, with billions produced every year. But the year 1960 brought something very different to the table, something that collectors now consider a gold mine. In 1960, the United States Mint made a major shift that led to 2 main types of Lincoln pennies being produced that year. There was a version with a small date and another with a large date. At a glance, they look almost identical. But the size of the numbers in the date, especially the 0, is just slightly different. To most people, the small design difference didn't matter at all. But to collectors, the small date version quickly became a hot item, especially when paired with the right mint mark and in perfect condition. And here's where the story takes a sharp turn. While millions of Lincoln pennies were produced in 1960, something strange happened during the minting process. A few of these coins came off the press with striking errors, particularly doubled dies. This means the coin was struck twice, leaving behind shadow-like images on certain parts, most commonly on the date or lettering. These doubling errors weren't caught at the time. The coins went into circulation like any other penny, tossed in pockets, dropped into vending machines, and buried in jars across the country. For decades, no one paid attention. But as coin collectors started to study Lincoln cents from the 1960s, they began to notice a pattern: rare coins with distinct errors that made them incredibly valuable. The rarest of all is the 1960 small date Lincoln penny with a doubled die, especially if it was minted in Philadelphia, which means there's no mint mark under the date. Only a few of these coins are known to exist in pristine, uncirculated condition. That combination, small date, no mint mark, double die, and excellent condition, is what makes this coin one of the most prized 1-cent coins ever discovered. Let's talk about the design for a second. On the front of the coin, you've got the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," and to his left is liberty. On the right side, of course, is the date, 1960. Now here's where you need to look closely. If you compare a 1960 small date penny to a large date version, the numbers 6 and 0 are thinner and sit higher on the small date. If your eyes are sharp, you might catch it. If not, a magnifying glass will definitely help. Flip the coin over and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side. This design was added in 1959 to replace the old wheat penny look. It includes the words E Pluribus Unum and United States of America across the top, and 1 cent at the bottom. It all looks pretty standard, but remember, it's the fine details that hide the value. So now you might be wondering, how do I know if I have the right one? Here's a simple checklist. 1. Check the date. Look for a 1960 small date rather than a large date. 2. Check for a mint mark. If there's no D below the date, it was made in Philadelphia. 3. Look closely for doubling, especially on the date and the word liberty. 4. Condition matters. Coins that are scratched, worn, or dull lose value fast. If it looks crisp and shiny, you might be in luck. 5. Get it graded. A professional coin grading service can authenticate the coin and assess its value. This is where many collectors discover they've been sitting on something truly special. Now here's the thing, not every 1960 penny is valuable. But the rare ones, those with the right combination of design, mint error, and perfect condition, have sold for jaw-dropping amounts at auctions. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, one of these rare 1960 Lincoln pennies, with the small date, no mint mark, and in top-tier condition with a confirmed doubling error, was valued at an astonishing $120,000. Yes, a single penny, Worth just 1 cent at face value, could be worth $120,000 in today's collector market. That's the kind of story that turns casual coin searchers into full-time treasure hunters. So, next time you're counting your change or cleaning out that old coin jar in the garage, don't overlook the pennies. Take a close look at the date. Grab a magnifying glass. Because you never know, you might just be holding onto a piece of history worth far more than you could ever imagine. Top 3. If you've ever looked at a penny and thought, it's just 1 cent, think again, because today's story is about how a single 1966 Lincoln penny turned out to be worth far more than anyone ever imagined. That's right. 1 penny. A coin that most of us ignore, toss into a jar, or even drop without bothering to pick up. But this particular coin from 1966 has captured the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters all over the country. Why? Because of its mystery, rarity, and the unbelievable value it can hold under the right conditions. So if you've got a handful of old coins sitting around, or you've inherited a coin collection from a family member, stick around. You just might be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Let's dive into the fascinating world of the 1966 Lincoln penny. The Lincoln cent has been a fixture of American currency since 1909. It was introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, and it's still in circulation today, more than a century later. But over that time, the penny has seen many changes. Different designs, different metals, and yes, even hidden secrets. Now, the year 1966 was an interesting one for the United States Mint. The country was still feeling the effects of the coin shortage of the early 1960s. To solve the crisis, the Mint had made some bold decisions, like removing mint marks from coins between 1965 and 1967, in an effort to prevent people from hoarding specific types. This means that number 1966 penny will have a mint mark, no matter where it was made. That alone makes these coins unusual. But the real story starts with how a few of these pennies were struck and how incredibly rare versions began to surface decades later. Now let's talk design. On the front of the 1966 Lincoln penny, you'll see the familiar image of President Lincoln facing right. Above his head is the phrase, "In God We Trust." To his left, the word liberty. And to the right, the date 1966. On the reverse side, we have the Lincoln Memorial, surrounded by the words United States of America and E Pluribus Unum, along with the coin's denomination, 1 cent. It looks like every other penny from the outside, but that's where the magic of numismatics comes in. Because sometimes, it's what you can't see right away that makes all the difference. The real treasure lies in a small number of 1966 pennies that were struck with unique mint errors. These are mistakes that happened during the production process at the Mint, and while they were never intended to leave the factory, a few slipped through the cracks. Some of these error coins include double dies, where the image or lettering was stamped twice, creating a ghost-like shadow effect on the coin's surface. Others may have been struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the coin was made using the wrong type of metal. Some have off-center strikes or even clipped edges, which are instantly noticeable once you know what to look for. Each of these errors adds a layer of rarity, and with rarity comes value. But beyond the errors, what really drives up the worth of a 1966 penny is condition. Coins that are in mint state condition, meaning they've never been in circulation and still look as sharp and clean as the day they were made, are incredibly rare. Most 1966 pennies were used in everyday transactions, collecting scratches, dirt, and wear over the years. So finding one that's perfectly preserved? That's a collector's dream, you might be thinking. Okay, but how do I know if I have one of these special coins? Here's what to look for. First, examine the coin under a good light. Check for any signs of doubling, especially in the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. If you see a shadow effect or thick, doubled letters, you might have a doubled die. Next, inspect the edges and overall shape. If the coin looks oddly cut, clipped, or struck off-center, that could be a rare mint error. Finally, consider the condition. A penny that's shiny, free of scratches, and has that original red luster could be in uncirculated condition, especially valuable when paired with an error. And don't just trust your eyes. It's always a good idea to have the coin authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. That official certification could mean the difference between a nice collectible and a life-changing payday. So, how much can a 1966 Lincoln penny really be worth? Well, most regular 1966 pennies are still worth just 1 cent. Some in good condition might sell for a few dollars to collectors. But the rare ones, the ones with serious mint errors and flawless condition, have gone on to fetch staggering prices at auction, and in one extraordinary case, a rare 1966 Lincoln penny with exceptional features and preserved in immaculate condition was appraised at an incredible $110,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent. One coin. $110,000. It just goes to show, never underestimate the power of a penny. That little copper coin you walk past every day could be hiding a rare error, a piece of minting history, or the exact combination collectors have been searching for. So go ahead. Check your coin jars. Look through your old collections. Ask your grandparents if they've saved any coins from the 60s. Because the next big discovery could be sitting right in your own home. Top 4. We're taking a deep dive into a coin that's easy to overlook, but if you've got the right one, it could change your life. We're talking about the 1970 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like every other 1 cent coin you've seen 100 times. But some very specific versions of the 1970 penny have become one of the hottest items in the world of coin collecting, and if you're lucky enough to have one of these rare specimens, you could be holding on to something truly extraordinary. So, sit tight, because what starts as a regular coin could end up being a 5-figure discovery hiding in your change jar. Let's jump right into the story of the 1970 Lincoln 1 cent coin. The 1970s were a time of major change in the United States. The country was recovering from the turbulent 1960s, dealing with war, civil rights movements, and economic uncertainty. But in the middle of all that history, the U.S. Mint continued doing what it had always done, producing coins for everyday use. The Lincoln penny had already been in circulation for more than 60 years by the time 1970 rolled around. First minted in 1909 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to ever feature a real person. And by 1970, the Lincoln penny had seen a number of changes, including a new reverse design introduced in 1959 featuring the Lincoln Memorial. But what most people didn't realize was that a very small number of 1970 pennies were struck with unusual errors, unique features, or incredibly low mintage numbers, details that transformed them from common pocket change into high-value collector's items. And now, before we reveal what makes the rare 1970 Lincoln penny so valuable, let's talk about its design. On the obverse, you'll see the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above his head is the motto, "In God We Trust." To the left, you'll find the word liberty, and to the right, the date, 1970. Some coins feature a small S under the date, indicating that they were minted in San Francisco. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the reverse side showing the Lincoln Memorial with the inscriptions, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. Simple. Clean. Classic, but hidden within these coins are variations that are so rare, so limited in number, that most people don't even know to look for them. Here's where it gets exciting. There are a few specific versions of the 1970 penny that collectors go absolutely crazy for. One of the most famous is the 1970s small date Lincoln cent. Most 1970s pennies feature what's known as a large date, meaning the numbers are wider and more spread out. But the small date version is much rarer. The 7 in the date appears level with the 0 instead of lower, and the entire date looks tighter and more compact. If you don't know what you're looking for, you could easily miss it, but the true jackpot is when that 1970s small date penny is found in proof condition, those mirror-like coins struck with special dies for collectors. Only a limited number were made, and finding one in flawless condition today is almost like finding buried treasure. And there's more. Some 1970 Lincoln pennies were struck with doubling errors, known as double die bursts. This means the coin's design was accidentally stamped twice during the minting process, causing parts of the text, especially the word liberty, the motto, or the date, to appear doubled. It's subtle, but extremely valuable when authenticated. Other rare finds include off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned when it was struck, or coins made with planchet errors, like being struck on the wrong type of metal. When you combine these rare mint errors with a coin in uncirculated or proof condition, the value can skyrocket. Now, let's talk about what this all means for you. You might be thinking, I've got a jar of old pennies sitting in a drawer. How do I know if I have one of these rare ones? Here's what to look for. First, check the date. If it's 1970 and there's an S mint mark under it, you could be in business. And next, look at the shape of the numbers. Compare the 7 and the 0. If they seem smaller and tighter than usual, you might have the small date variety. Then, check for doubling. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Look closely at liberty, in God we trust, and the date. Any strange shadows or overlapping impressions could be signs of a doubled die, and finally, consider the condition. A coin that has never been circulated, that still has its original luster and shine, will always be worth more. Proof coins, especially those stored in their original packaging, are top-tier finds. If you even suspect you've got something rare, the best thing to do is have it looked at by a professional coin grading service. That little bit of expert verification could turn your 1-cent coin into something truly life-changing. Now, the moment you've been waiting for. One of these extremely rare 1970 Lincoln pennies, with the right combination of mint mark, error, and condition, has been appraised and sold in a private collector's sale for an astonishing $105,000. Yes. 1 penny. Worth $105,000. That's the kind of number that makes you look at your change a little differently, doesn't it? So next time you're going through your pocket change or digging through an old coin collection, keep an eye out for the 1970 Lincoln cent. Because hidden among the common coins are a few that tell a different story, one of rarity, mystery, and incredible value. Top 5. We've got a fascinating one for you. What if I told you that a penny minted in 1971, with a tiny little D beneath the date, could be worth more than some luxury cars? That's right. One single penny. A coin that people used every day, tossed in jars, slipped between couch cushions, and thought nothing of. It could now be worth an amount that would leave most people speechless. So make sure to watch closely, because today we're talking about the 1971 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, and you'll want to hear every detail. You never know, this rare and valuable coin might be hiding in your own collection. Let's explore the story behind this unbelievable penny. Let's set the scene. It's 1971. The United States is deep into a time of cultural shifts, political drama, and economic change. But over at the Denver Mint, things were business as usual. Millions of Lincoln pennies were being struck every single day. In fact, over 2.9 billion of them were made that year alone. So, it's easy to assume that every 1971 D penny, the ones with the D below the date, showing they were minted in Denver, must be incredibly common, right? Not exactly, because among the billions of coins produced that year, a small handful were created with flaws, details, or anomalies so rare that collectors have spent decades searching for them. These aren't your average pocket change pennies, these are coins with quirks, errors, and exceptional conditions that turn them into numismatic gold, and the 1971 D Lincoln penny is one of the most intriguing of them all. Before we get into what makes this coin so special, let's take a moment to appreciate the design. On the front, or the obverse, you'll see the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor D. Brenner. It's a portrait we've all seen, but the more you look at it, the more you appreciate its fine detail. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," to the left is the word "Liberty," and on the right, you'll find the date, 1971, with that all-important D mint mark underneath. Flip it over, and you've got the reverse side, the Lincoln Memorial, which replaced the wheat ears in 1959. Across the top is United States of America, and below that, E Pluribus Unum. At the bottom, 1 cent. Now, this is where the average person stops looking. But for collectors, this is just the beginning. Because this coin has a secret that could make it incredibly valuable. So, what exactly makes the 1971 D penny worth more than just 1 cent? Let's talk about errors and variations. First, one of the most sought-after features is the double die error. This happens when the die that stamps the design onto the coin accidentally strikes it twice, slightly off from the first impression. The result? A ghost-like doubling effect, often visible on letters and numbers. If you notice the word Liberty or the date showing signs of shadowing or duplication, don't ignore it, it could be the key to a small fortune. Next, there's the possibility of off-center strikes. This is when the coin wasn't properly aligned when it was struck, leaving a portion of the design missing or shifted. The more dramatic the error, the more collectors will pay for it. Then there are planchet errors, where the coin is struck on the wrong type of metal disc. This could result in strange coloration, unusual thickness, or odd weight, all things that make the coin highly desirable, but perhaps the biggest factor of all is condition. A 1971 D penny that's never been circulated, what collectors call mint state or uncirculated, is extremely rare. Most of these pennies were used in everyday transactions. They've been scratched, worn, and dulled over time. Finding one in perfect shape is like finding a time capsule. When you combine a rare error with uncirculated condition, you have the recipe for an extremely valuable coin. So how can you tell if your 1971 D penny is one of the rare ones? Here are a few steps to check a one. Look at the date and mint mark. Make sure it says 1971 with a D underneath. Point 2. Examine the lettering, look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. Do the letters look doubled or blurred? That's a potential doubled die. Point 3. Check the edges and shape. If the coin looks off-center or unusually cut, you might have an error. Strike. Point 4. Consider the color and luster. Is the coin still bright, shiny, and free from scratches? If so, it could be in mint state. Point 5. Weigh it or get it graded. Some rare errors are only obvious when weighed or professionally graded. If you're in doubt, send it to a certified grading company like PCGS or NGC. They'll confirm what you have, and if you're lucky, it might just come back with a jaw-dropping score. And now, here's the part you've been waiting for. You're probably asking, what is the actual value of one of these rare 1971D Lincoln pennies? While most 1971D pennies are still worth 1 cent, the rarest examples, the ones with mint errors, doubling, or flawless condition, have sold for extraordinary prices at auction. In one confirmed case, a rare 1971D Lincoln penny with a dramatic mint error and preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition was valued at a stunning $102,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. 1 penny. $102,000. So the next time you're digging through spare change, sorting through a jar of old coins, or flipping through a forgotten coin album, keep your eyes peeled. That small copper coin with a little D beneath the date might just be your ticket to an incredible discovery. Top 6. We're zeroing in on something small, simple, and possibly priceless. Yes, we're talking about the 1981D Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like the penny you've seen all your life. It's been through cash registers, pockets, and piggy banks. Millions of people have handled it, and most thought nothing of it. But a rare few of these pennies? They hold a secret. And that secret could be worth a whole lot more than 1 cent. So if you've ever wondered whether you've got a hidden gem tucked away in a coin jar or an old collection, stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for in the 1981D Lincoln penny that could be worth thousands. Let's dive in now. The D under the date on a Lincoln penny stands for Denver. The Denver Mint produced an enormous number of these coins in 1981, over 5.5 billion to be exact. That's right, billion with a B. So why would anyone think this coin could be rare? Here's where things get interesting. You see, 1981 was the last full year the Lincoln penny was struck in 95% copper before the US Mint switched to copper-plated zinc coins in 1982. That alone makes 1981 pennies a key year for collectors, especially those interested in metal content and transitional minting history. But with the D mint mark and some other unique features, a small number of 1981D Lincoln pennies stand out in ways most people would never expect. Let's talk about the design for a second. On the obverse side, the front, you've got the familiar face of President Abraham Lincoln. He's been there since 1909, and he's not going anywhere. Around him are the inscriptions In God We Trust, Liberty, and the date 1981. Just beneath the date, if you look closely, you'll see the small D mark, meaning it was minted in Denver. Flip it over, and there's the Lincoln Memorial, beautifully detailed, with the words United States of America across the top, E pluribus unum right above the memorial, and 1 cent at the bottom. Simple, classic, and iconic, but even with a design so familiar, it's the subtle imperfections, the rare minting quirks, that send collectors into a frenzy. And now, let's get into what makes the 1981D Lincoln penny worth hunting for. There are several known errors and variations that make certain 1981D pennies extremely valuable. Point 1. Of the most desirable is the doubled die obverse, where parts of the lettering or date appear to have been stamped twice by mistake. This results in a faint but visible doubling, especially in Liberty and In God We Trust. These doubling errors are often only visible with magnification, but they dramatically increase a coin's value. Another rare find is the off-center strike, where the coin design is not perfectly aligned. A dramatic off-center strike, where a large portion of the design is missing, can make a coin unique and highly collectible. Then there are die cracks, die clashes, and planchet errors, all unusual mishaps in the minting process that can turn an ordinary coin into a one-of-a-kind discovery. And finally, there's one detail you can't ignore: condition. Most 1981D pennies have been passed around for decades. They've been scraped, dropped, pocketed, and forgotten. But if you find one in mint state condition, with a bright copper luster, no signs of wear, and all design elements crisp and sharp, that alone can make it a valuable collectible even without an error. And now, combine a mint state coin with a rare error? That's when you're talking serious money. So how do you know if you've struck gold, or in this case, copper? Here's what to look for. 1. Start with the date and mint mark. Confirm you've got a 1981 penny with a small d below the date. Point 2. Check for doubling, use a magnifying glass and examine the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Doubling will appear as faint outlines or shadows. Point 3. Look at the edges, off-center strikes or clipped planchets will have irregular edges or visible design shifts. Point 4. Assess the shine. A brilliant, untouched surface could mean you've got a coin in uncirculated or even mint state condition. Point 5. Get it graded. If you suspect your coin is rare, submit it to a grading company like PCGS or NGC. Their certification is trusted by collectors and auction houses worldwide. Remember, coins that are professionally graded and encapsulated can sell for much more than ungraded coins, because buyers know exactly what they're getting. Now, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. What is one of these rare 1981D Lincoln pennies actually worth? Well, while most 1981D pennies are still worth just 1 cent, a very small number of them, with the right error, the right strike, and in pristine condition, have gone on to sell at private auctions and collector sales for jaw-dropping prices. In one remarkable case, a 1981D Lincoln penny with a unique mint error and preserved in near-perfect, uncirculated condition was valued at a stunning $93,000. That's right, $93,000 for a coin you might find in a drawer or coin jar right now. So, what's the takeaway? The next time you're going through your change, sorting through an old piggy bank, or looking through a coin collection passed down from a relative, don't skip over the pennies. Especially not the 1981D. Because hiding in that familiar copper color could be a coin worth more than most people make in a year. Top 7, because we're about to take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating and unexpectedly valuable coins in U.S. history, the 1976 Lincoln penny. And now, this isn't just any penny. It comes from a year filled with patriotism, celebration, and change. America's bicentennial year. While quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins got all the attention with special commemorative designs, the humble penny quietly continued its usual look. But don't be fooled, because behind that familiar design lies one of the rarest and most valuable versions of the Lincoln cent you may ever come across. And if you stick around until the end of this video, we're going to reveal just how much one of these rare 1976 Lincoln pennies is actually worth. You'll want to check your coin jars after this, trust me. Let's get started. The year 1976 was a big one. America was turning 200 years old. The bicentennial sparked parades, fireworks, music, and even special edition coins. You probably know about the Drummer Boy quarter or the dual date half dollar. But the penny? It stayed the same. Or so it seemed. The Lincoln cent had already been around for over 6 decades by that point. First minted in 1909, it was the first U.S. coin to ever feature a real person, President Abraham Lincoln. By 1976, the reverse side had featured the Lincoln Memorial for nearly 2 decades, ever since it replaced the wheat ears in 1959. At a glance, the 1976 penny doesn't look like anything unusual. But as with many things in the world of numismatics, it's what you don't immediately see that can make a world of difference, because while billions of pennies were struck that year, yes, billions, only a tiny handful came out with rare errors, flaws, and features that make them incredibly valuable today. So let's talk about design before we dive into the treasure hunt-worthy details. On the front, or obverse side, you'll see the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln. He's facing right, with the motto, "In God We Trust," above his head, liberty to his left, and the date, 1976, to his right. If your coin was minted in Denver, you'll see a small demint mark beneath the year. Flip it over, and you're greeted by the Lincoln Memorial. Tiny but impressive in its detail. Above it reads United States of America, beneath that, the phrase E pluribus unum, and along the bottom, 1 cent. No bells, no whistles. Nothing about it screams rare or expensive, but looks can be deceiving. Here's where things get exciting. Among those millions and millions of 1976 Lincoln cents, there are a few that came off the minting presses with errors, unusual variations, and in some cases, striking perfection that sets them apart from the rest. Let's start with the double die error, one of the most sought-after features in any coin. This happens when the coin's design is accidentally stamped twice, slightly offset, causing certain areas, like Liberty, In God We Trust, or even the date, to appear shadowed or doubled. These are often hard to spot with the naked eye, but collectors and experts go wild for them. Then there are off-center strikes, which are pretty self-explanatory. The coin wasn't centered properly during the minting process, and the result is a visibly misaligned design. The more dramatic the shift, the more valuable the coin. Next, we have die cracks and die clashes, where the die used to stamp the coin has become damaged, causing unusual lines or marks across the coin's surface. These unexpected features can turn a standard penny into a rare collectible. There are also planchet errors, where the wrong metal blank was used to strike the coin. These are incredibly rare and sometimes result in coins being made of odd materials or having unusual colors or weights. And finally, perhaps the biggest factor that can turn a simple 1976 penny into a serious payday condition. A coin that has never been in circulation, that has been perfectly preserved since the day it was minted, is called a mint state coin. These coins are shiny, free from scratches, and show no signs of wear. Pair a mint state coin with a rare error, and you've got something truly valuable on your hands. Now let's say you're curious. You have a few old coins lying around. How do you know if your 1976 penny is one of the rare and valuable ones? Here's a quick checklist. 1. Check the date and mint mark. Make sure it says 1976, and see if it has a small d under the year for the Denver Mint. 2. Examine the lettering and numbers. Use a magnifying glass to check for doubling. Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. 3. Inspect the edges. Off-center strikes will have obvious gaps or cut-off sections along the rim. 4. Look for unusual lines or blemishes. Die cracks and clashes leave distinctive marks across the surface. 5. Pay attention to the shine. If the coin is still bright, clean, and coppery without wear or damage, you may have a mint state coin. 6. Weigh the coin. If it feels lighter or heavier than normal, it could be struck on the wrong planchet. If anything about your coin seems unusual, it's worth getting it appraised or graded by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. Their expert verification can skyrocket the value of your coin when it hits the collector's market. And now, for the moment everyone's been waiting for. While most 1976 Lincoln pennies are only worth their face value, the rarest examples, those with significant mint errors and preserved in exceptional, uncirculated condition, have stunned the numismatic world with their sale prices. In one confirmed instance, a 1976 Lincoln penny with an extremely rare error and pristine mint state quality sold for an eye-widening $107,000. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny. $107,000. So what's the lesson here? Never overlook the simple coins in your collection. That tiny copper piece from 1976 that you nearly gave away could actually be a collector's dream. It's not just metal, it's history, it's craftsmanship, and in some cases, it's life-changing value. Thank you for watching today's deep dive into the world of rare pennies. If you found this video fascinating, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another discovery. We've got plenty more hidden treasures to reveal, and your next big find could be just around the corner. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and always check your change.